Hello and welcome to Gefet in the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, bringing to you with Hadran and Yeshivat Drisha, learning Rishonim and sometimes Achronim, like today. Even though you're learning B'Q, doing a bit of Iyun. And last Shabbos, the Shabbos that we just left, we had a Daf Pei Aleph. And there was a Gemara which is rather famous because it's also quoted in other places in Shas, and also because of its theme. The Gemara states that the reason that there was a Hurban Aretz, that the land of Israel was being destroyed and we went on our very big galut, was because we did not say Birkat HaTorah. And of course, this is a very, very strange Gemara, very interesting Gemara, that after you learn it, you definitely look at Birkat Torah in a whole different light. So what we'll do today is learn the Gemara and look at the Ran on the Sugya, which is also very well known. And today, not like other times, we will be learning two passages from Achronim, from Hamtav Sofer, and also from Rav Soloveitchik. So join us. This is going to be a special Gefet and a good way to keep the light of Shabbos also in the beginning of your week. Okay, so let's start with the Gemara. The Gemara is easy to read, but is hard to understand and raises a lot of questions. So the Gemara says, Shalchu Misham, it was sent from Israel. Beware from few things. היזהרו בערבובייתא, היזהרו בחבורה, היזהרו בבני עניים שמהם תצא תורה, שנאמר היזהר על מים מדליו, שמהם תצא תורה. So what's Irbuviata? We won't get into that, it's a little long, but let's look at the Ran explaining what's Hizaru B'Chavura and Hizaru B'Bnei Aniim. So the Ran here says, Hizaru B'Chavura, ללמד תורה בחבורה. שתלמידים מחדדים זה את זה ואת הרב. If you want to learn Torah well, you have to learn in a group because the students make each other stronger, more precise, and also the students make the Rav more precise. And I can tell you, learning in Yeshivat Risha, that is 100% sure. Our shiurim are very much like that, and the teachers come there to be mechudad, and that's the way you should be learning Torah. What else? היזהרו בבני עניים להשתדל ללמדם תורה, שמהם תצא תורה, שאין להם עסק אחר, ועוד שדעתם שפלה עליהם. So the Ran here says that there are two reasons why Bnei Aniyim, the children of those who are poor, have a strong way to get into Torah, because two things that are things in the way of Torah do not exist with them. One thing is that if you're from a rich family, you have other business is bothering you. There's esek in your mind, and Bnei Aniyim don't have that esek clouding their vision, clouding their minds. And another thing is that if you're from rich families, you might have gaiva, and Aniyim have ruach shvela, and we know from other places that the Torah is like water, and it looks for low places. So if you have a low spirit in the first place, ruach shvela, the chances that you'll be a good vessel for Torah are larger, because learning Torah really does call for two things: to have to be willing to view yourself as somebody who's below, who's shafel, and also you really have to give Torah its time and its energy, and not be distracted by other things. And these two things happen in Bnei Aniyim, and that's why the Dafka have a strong potential to become Talmidei Chachamim. And the Sugya continues and says, on the other hand, if you're a child of a rabbi, of a Talmid Chacham, so there's a harder chance that you'll become a Talmid Chacham yourself. So it's a very interesting Gemara. Says the Gemara, מפני מים מצויים תלמידי חכמים לצאת תלמידי חכמים מבניהם. אמר רב יוסף שלא אמרו ירושה אליהם. רב ששת ברי דרבידי אומר כדי שלא יתגדרו על הציבור. מר זוטרא אומר מפני שהם מתגברים על הציבור. רב אשי אומר משום דקרא לאין יש חמרי. Ravina Omer she'en mevarchim HaTorah tchila. So we have here Rav Yosef, Rav Sheshet, Mar Zutra, Rav Ashi, and Ravina. 5 different reasons why children of Talmidei Chachamim dafka have less of a chance to become Talmidei Chachamim themselves. This is a very interesting thing. These Talmidei Chachamim are talking about themselves. So Rav Sheshet, Rav Yosef is the first to say the reason you won't have children of Talmidei Chachamim themselves, so people won't say that Torah is like money, that you can be Yoresh it, because Torah you need to work hard to achieve it. Doesn't help just to receive it like money. You have to work for it on your own. And if the son will be a Talmid Chacham, people might accidentally think that it's a Yerusha. Rav Sheshet says, we don't want Talmid Chachamim to become too strong and to have them looking down on the tzibur. So if their sons will also be Talmid Chachamim, they might become people who look down on the tzibur. So that's why we want to prevent that from happening. And Malzutra says, no, it's not a prevention, it's a punishment because they are that way, so they get punished for the way that they're seeing themselves as more than other people. And Rav Ashi says it's because they call people who are not Talmidei Chachamim Chamri. Now, Chamri it's a double word. It works with Chomer, which is materialistic, and it's also Chamor, which is a donkey. So it's a double meaning here. And it seems that Rav Ashi is like Masudra. He thinks that Talmidei Chachamim have problems, have gaiva, and to keep their spirit down, so God does not let their children become Talmidei Chachamim themselves. And Ravina says it's because the children of the Talmidei Chachamim are not mevarchim b'Torah tchila. Okay, so of course there's a lot to think about here, and I've seen Rishonim discuss all these 5 different explanations, but let's zoom in into what Ravina said. So Ravina said that if you don't mevarech b'Torah tchila, you cannot become a Talmid Chacham. And where does he get that from? From a Mimra of Rav. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, מה דכתיב מי האיש החכם ויבן את זאת? דבר זה נשאל החכמים לנביאים ולא פירשו, עד שפירשו הקדוש ברוך הוא בעצמו, דכתיב ויאמר אדוני על עזבם את תורתי וגומר. היינו לא שמעו בקולי, היינו לא הלכו בה. אמר רב יהודה אמר רב, שאין מברכים בתורה תחילה. So Ravina learned that the son of a Talmid Chacham might have a problem that he's not mevarech b'Torah tchila, but from where he learns it, we hear that there's a much bigger problem with not being mevarech b'Torah tchila. Not only that you don't become a Talmid Chacham, but that the whole land of Israel was destroyed, charva haaretz, because we were not mevarchim b'Torah tchila. And of course, this calls for a very big question. We know that there were other sins in the Hurban of Aretz, right? The 3 big sins of Avodah Zarah, Gilui Arot, V'Shfichut Damim, which the first temple was destroyed because of them. And the second temple, they say that they were defka okay in these respects, but there was Sinat Chinam, the famous story of Kansa and Bar Kansa. And suddenly we have this new Gemara saying a totally different story, that they, and that they were not saying Birkot Torah. And the very different thing here is that even if it's a sin, it doesn't sound to be like such a strong sin like the others. So it's a little surprising. Why is this the reason that is stated here by Rav, that God said that that's why Am Yisrael lost its country? So this Gemara is very, very hard to understand. Again, not reading, but understanding in our mind, in our savara. So let's start on our little tour to see what Rishonim have said and what Achronim have said, and I can tell you that there's been a lot written on this, and I just chose a few things that I find interesting. I thought would be nice to share with you. So anyone who's interested in this topic, there's a lot more to look into in here. So we'll begin with the Ran on the Sugya, which is very famous, and the Ran quotes Rabbeinu Yonah, which is also a very important Rishon, which is prior to the Ran. So Ran starts and he says, "Davar ze nishal hachachamim velo pirshuhu." So first the Ran quotes the Bura Matchil in the Talmud that the Chachamim and the Nevi'im didn't know why, what was the problem, and they had to have God explain to them. ודכתיב ויאמר השם על עזבם את תורתי מכלל דליקא דידע להדוריתיימה אלא קודשא בריחו בלכוד. Says the Ran, notice that nobody knew what was wrong. We had to have God explain it to us. ומצאתי במגילת סתרים של הרב, רבנו יונה, דקרא הכי דייקה שלא ברכו בתורה תחילה עבדה הארץ, דהמעיטה על עוזבם את תורתי, כפשטה משמע שעזבו את התורה, אבל לא היו עוסקים בה. כשנשאל החכמים ולנביאים למה לא פירשוה, אבל לא דבר גלוי היה וקל לפרש. אלא ודאי, עוסקים היו בתורה, תמיד. ולפיכך היו חכמים ונביאים תמהים על מה עבדה הארץ, עד שפירשו הקדוש ברוך הוא בעצמו, שהוא יודע מעמקי הלב, שלא היו מברכים לתורה תחילה, כלומר, שלא הייתה התורה חשובה בעיניהם כל כך, שיהיה ראוי לברך עליה, שלא היו עוסקים בה לשמה, ומתוך כך היו מזלזלים את ברכתה, והיינו לא הלכו בה כלומר בכוונתה ולשמה. אלו דברי הרב החסיד ז"ל, והם נאים ראויים למי שאמר. Okay, so says the Ran, Rabbeinu Yonah explains that everybody was learning Torah. That was not the problem. If the problem was not learning Torah, the Nevi'im and the Chachamim would have seen it because it would have been clear. The moment that the Sugya says that we have to ask God, it means that it has to do with something in our minds, something that the Chachamim and the Nevi'im couldn't see in their own eyes. It says, Rabbeinu Yonah, that the problem was not that they were not learning. The problem was that they did not think highly enough of the Torah and did not see the Torah as something that is worth a beracha. לא הייתה התורה חשובה ביניהם כל כך שיהיה ראוי לברך עליה. They would say a bracha on an apple, but they wouldn't say a bracha on the Torah. And continues Rabbeinu Yonah and says, if they did not understand that the Torah is something that we need to say a bracha on, it means that they were not learning at lishma. And that's why they didn't understand that you have to say a bracha on the Torah. And that's what it means that they did not go in the Torah's ways, means that they did not see the Torah as something that is worthy enough to say a bracha on, and they were not learning it lishma. So the Ran opened up very interesting things, but left us with a lot of questions. We do understand now why the Chachamim and the Nevi'im didn't know, because it has to do with the mind and the perspective of people who are learning Torah. But still, the strong question stays, a problem in the mind and the way that you treat Torah, not even in learning, but the way you think about it, that's what caused the land to be destroyed. It's very, very hard. So I want to look at things that Achronim have said regarding this. So let's begin with the Chatam Sofer. The Chatam Sofer Nedarim quotes the Ran, quotes Rabbeinu Yonah, and he tells us, and this is methodology for you, Chatam Sofer tells us when you read a Rishon, you have to be medaktek in the words that he used, and he's going to do a diuk in the Devarim of Rabbeinu Yonah. So let's see what's his diuk. על פי דברי רבנו יונה שברן כאן יש לפרש כפשוטו, שנדקדק תחילה לשון תורה לשמה, מהו לשון לשמה, ולא אמר לשם שמיים. Says Chatam Sofer, notice that Rabbeinu Yonah said, לא למדו תורה לשמה. He didn't say לא למדו תורה לשם שמיים. What's the difference between לשמה and לשם שמיים? Continues the Chatam Sofer and says, אלא יש תורה לשם שמיים ממש, אך אין כוונתו אלא לקיים המצוות ולדע ההלכה איך יעשה המעשה. וכיוון דכל עצמו של אותו העסק איננו אלא לקיים המצווה, איננו עדיף מקיום המצווה גופי, דבעינא דלא יעסיק בה, לא מגנה ולא מטלי. States Chatam Sofer and says, what is Torah lishma and what is Torah l'shem shamayim? Let's first understand what's l'shem shamayim. L'shem shamayim means that you learn Torah to understand how to do halacha, how to do mikayim mitzvahs. And that is a very good thing in itself. It's very important to learn Torah because if you don't learn, you don't know what to do. What's the big problem here? There's no big problem, but you should know that Torah and mitzvot have a strength of protection. Torah and mitzvot are magna v'matzli. Okay, they protect and they also matzil. They help us escape from bad things that happen to us. So we understand here that when bad things happen to us, we're in a bad situation. Maybe the situation was not caused because of not learning Torah Lishma. But Torah Lishma has the power to save us from the bad situation. So if you don't learn Torah Lishma and you only learn Torah in a way to be doing mitzvahs, you have protection, you have Atala, and you have Hagana, but just while you're doing the mitzvah. Because learning to do the mitzvah is not stronger than doing the mitzvah itself. And we know that mitzvot, you only have a power of protection while you're doing them. I'm reading Chatam Sofer again. יש תורה לשם שמיים, אין כוונתו אלא לקיים את המצוות. וכיוון שכל אותו עצמו של העסק איננו אלא לקיים מצווה, איננו עדיף מקיום מצווה גופי, דבעידנא דלא יעסיק בה, ומגנה ולא מצלה. When I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm giving tzedakah, I'm preparing things for Shabbos, I'm not a lulav, I'm davening, I have protection. But the minute I stop, the protection stops. And if I learn Torah in order to understand how to do mitzvot, so the protection is only on the spot while I'm learning Torah. אבל, says חתם סופר, עיקר מצוות עסק התורה הוא מצווה בפני עצמו להגות ביומם בלילה, להעמיק, לעיין בכל תוצאותיה ומובאיה, כי עמקו מחשבותיה. ואם בחוקותיי תלכו שתהיו עמלים בתורה, לא לבד לדע המצווה בשעה שצריך לה, אלא דרוש וקבל שכר, אנו הדרשה עצמה היא השכר לנחת רוח לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, וזה עוסק לתורה לשמה, לא על כוונה אחרת, והיא המגינה במצלה. Says Chatam Sofer, learning Torah lishma means not learning to do mitzvahs, learning just to understand Torah, to be Dorish Torah, to be mit'anig Torah, to be amel b'Torah. And if you learn Torah that way, Torah protects you all the time. Torah has a stronger ability to protect than mitzvot. So the problem with the people who weren't learning Torah lishma wasn't that they were doing a sin. It just means that they lowered their protection. Because they were learning Torah just to do mitzvot, they had a lower protection. And if they would be learning lishma, they would have had a larger protection. And continues Chatan Sofer and says that's what God could tell the Nevi'im, because God knew that the motives of learning Torah were just to be doing mitzvot, and then God told them that it means that Am Yisrael left its strong protection. Not that learning Torah, Lo Lishma, was the reason that the land was destroyed. It was the reason why the land was not saved and protected from the sins that were done in other places. Okay, so Chatam Sofer helped us in a few things. First, I think he solves the problem in the sugya that, according to Chatam Sofer, not saying Birkot Torah is not the reason why the Aretz was Nechrav. It is the reason why Torah did not protect us, because we were not learning Torah in itself. We were only learning Torah as a means to be Mekayim mitzvahs. So that is a way of reading a sugya that solves many problems. But this way of reading the sugya creates a problem in a different way. In what way? So some Chachamim ask themselves, after Chatam Sofer said what he said, and also other Chachamim noticed this specific wording in the Ran and claimed that the Ran is saying that we have to learn Torah Lishma L'Shem Torah and not L'Shem Mitzvot. And many people asked, if that's the case, why do women say Birkot Torah? To understand this question and how it's connected, let's see just one place where this question was asked. The Daf and the Daf brings Chacham Echad that asked this question, and the Chacham said, the Bet Yosef said that women have to learn Torah in order to understand how to do the mitzvah that they're chayav. And that is why women are chayav in mitzvot Torah. But if the Chatam Sofer is right, and other people are right, that the reason that we say Birkot Torah is because we learn Torah Lishma, but women are not chayav to learn Torah Lishma. They only need to learn Torah because they need to know how to do mitzvot. So choose. If you're saying the bracha because you're learning Lishma, women are not part of this. So you can't say that women are chayav, but we do say that women cannot learn Torah if they don't say brachot lifnei, and you have to say Birkot Torah before you learn your daf yomi, and it's very, very, very important. But we just learned that Torah lishma means not learning for doing mitzvahs. It's more like you're learning daf yomi just to learn lishma, to understand the Torah, to know the Torah, to think about Torah, and not liba de hilcheta. So Chatan Sofer helped us in understanding the sugya, but created a problem with understanding the reason why women are chayav in Birkot Torah. So in order to understand how to solve this problem, I brought you a text from Rav Soloveitchik. It's a little hard, it's a little difficult, goes through things. It's from Reshimot Shirim on Masechet Brachot from Rav Soloveitchik, and I'll sum it out from the outside. The Rav brings a Tosfot in Brachot Daf Yud Bet, and the Tosfot has a shita that if you are not sure what kind of bracha you have to say before you eat something, Safek brachot lehakel, but you're not allowed to eat anything. What does that mean? I have a fruit. I'm not sure if I have to say if I already if I have to say Borei Pri Etz or Borei Pri Adama, or I have a piece of something and I don't know if it's Shakol or not. And I said one bracha and I'm not sure if I was Yotze. I shouldn't eat. I shouldn't eat Bichlal because Safek brachot of this kind, because the name is Lechumra. Why? It's true that usually Safek brachot lekula, נכון? Because brachot הנהנים are the Rabbanan and all Safek the Rabbanan is lekula. But explains Rabbi Akiva Eiger on the Tosfot because you don't have to eat. You always have a choice of eating or not eating. So if you're not 100% sure that you said the bracha, don't eat. And Birkot Hananim, that's why it's a special situation that's affect brachot leakel, but it's actually lachmir because you're not allowed to eat. נכון? Without saying a bracha, because כל הנהנה מן העולם הזה בלא ברכה, כאילו גוזל את הקדוש ברוך הוא, כאילו מעל. So says Rav Soloveitchik, okay, I understand the Tosfot, but I have a question on the Tosfot. If the Tosfot is right, why do we say that in Birkot Torah, which is not Birkot HaNe'enim, Birkat Torah is Birkat HaMitzvah, and usually Safek Brachot Le'akel, the Birkat HaMitzvah, the Tosfot agrees, why Dafka in Chot Talmud Torah we see that that's not the case. We just learned that you can't learn Torah if you did not say a bracha, and if you have a Safek, you have to say a bracha, and you don't say Safek Brachot Le'akel. If you're not sure if you said the bracha or not, you have to repeat and say the bracha again, because you cannot learn Torah without saying the bracha. But Limud Torah is a mitzvah, it's not Birkot HaNe'enim. So why is Talmud Torah a different mitzvah, and here in this mitzvah you are chayev to, even if you have a suffix, not to learn if you didn't say a bracha like we learned in our sugya. And says Rav Soloveitchik, from the Tosfot, what we understand is that even though Birkat Torah is only midirabanan, you have to lachzor and levarech Birkat Torah if you're not sure if you said Birkat Torah or not, because it's asur to learn Torah without a bracha. Why? Because Birkot Torah is saying a bracha like Birkot HaNe'enim. I'll read now a bit of the Greek and we'll see him saying it. עוד נראה לברך סברת התוספות על פי דברי הגר"ח זצ"ל שביאר לנשים מברכות ברכות התורה ואף על פי שאינן חייבות מצוות תלמוד תורה ואף לשיטת הרמב"ם בסביר על ידי מברכות המצוות שהזמן גרמה משום דאין ברכה על קיום מצוות תלמוד תורה אלא התורה עצמה טעונה ברכה והברכה חלה על החפצה של התורה. Says Rav Soloveitchik, the Grach explained, why do women have to say Birkot Torah? Because when you learn Torah, it is like eating. When you learn Torah, it's not a bracha on the mitzvah, it's bracha on the Torah. It's lehenot from the Torah. So that is why women say bracha on the Torah, even though they're not chayav in the mitzvah, because this bracha is not a bracha on mitzvah Talmud Torah. It's bracha on the Torah itself. And if you look on the He'arot, on the Shir, continues the Rav Soloveitchik and says, שני ברכות התורה מברכת המצוות, ולכאורה האיסור ללמוד תורה בלי לברך עליה, הווה איסור גזל, והתורה היא תורת השם. אלא שהקדוש ברוך הוא נתנה לישראל בכמה תנאים, באחד מן התנאים הוא שברכו עליה תחילה, ובלי לימוד התורה הווה לי גזל. Says Rav Soloveitchik, if you learn Torah without saying a bracha on Torah, what you're not understanding is that the Torah belongs to God. Really, it belongs to God. And when He gave us the Torah, He allows us to use it only if we say a bracha on it and we understand it is something that He's given us. And if we don't do that, it's as if we're gozel, the Kadosh Baruch Hu Himself, from His Torah. So the same rule that we have in Birkot HaNe'enim, כל הנהנה מן העולם הזה בלא ברכה כאילו גזל, on the Torah, it's mamish. If you're enjoying the Torah, if you're learning Torah Lishma, enjoying the Torah and not understanding that you got it from God, it's like you're being gozel God Himself, and you're almost over on Isur Gezer. Okay, so let's sum up what we saw. We saw a sugya, which I think creates a lot of questions. How can it be that nobody knew why did we go on Galut? And the reason why is that we were not saying because of Torah. The Ran brings Ben Yonah, who says it's not even saying because of Torah. It's because they did not think about Torah Lishma. It leaves us with a lot of questions, I think. Then we learned the Khatam Sofer, we explained, listen, it's not because that we didn't say the bracha or because we didn't learn Torah Lishma that the land was destroyed. The land was destroyed for other reasons, but Torah can help us and be protect us and be matzilas from anything that comes on us. But in order for Torah to have that effect, you have to learn Torah lishma and not l'shem shamayim. If you learn Torah to do mitzvot, then it only has the strength of protection like mitzvot have. While you do it, it helps, and when you don't do it, you don't. But if you learn Torah lishma, it has a much stronger way of protecting you. And that was the way of Khatam Sofer to answer many questions that we had in the Sugya. First, we understood the problem in not saying because of Torah is not a sin that caused the destruction of the land. It was a way of learning Torah that did not give us the protection that Torah has to offer. And then we said, okay, if that's the reason why we say because of Torah, and we say because of Torah, it's because we're learning from the understanding of Lishma and Dafka Lishma. How come women say because of Torah, women are not chayav to learn Lishma? If they are chayav to learn, the dafka chayav to learn the Shem Shamayim. And then we saw that Rav Soloveitchik said that the Grach understood that the reason that women are saying Mikot Torah is not because they're learning Torah to do mitzvos. They also learn Lishma. But if you learn Torah and you enjoy Torah, you have to say a bracha on Torah because learning Torah is like eating an apple. It's birkot hane'enim. You are enjoying something that God is giving you when you learn Torah Lishma. And you're not allowed to enjoy this world without a bracha. And kavachomer, you're not allowed to enjoy Torah, which is from the world of God, without saying a bracha. And that's why, according to the Grach, women, when they learn Lishma, say because of Torah. So obviously you, who are learning Daf Yomi and are learning Lishma, have to say because of Torah, so you won't be gozen. So that's just summing up what we saw. But I want to finish with a question I have in the Khatam Sofer and an answer that I gave myself. The Khatam Sofer claimed that when we learn Lishma, the Torah has a stronger ability to protect us from our sins. It's more magna and matla. It gives us more protection and more salvation than if you're doing mitzvot. And my question is why? What is it in Torah, learning Torah Lishma, that gives us this extra protection? Chatam Sofer didn't explain. But I want to offer an explanation. I think that when you learn Torah Lishma, like you do, like we're doing now together, we're learning Svaro, it's not halacha lemase, even though this year you might say is a little bit more halacha lemase because I'm stressing the point that you have the less because of Torah. But when you learn Gemara in general, especially if you're doing Daf Yomi or you're learning Biyun, you're not interested in the bottom line of the mitzvah. But what are you doing? You're learning a lot about how we learn Torah, that there are different views and there are very strong machlokot. And even though there are machlokot, we find our way among the machlokot. And we are still leaving all kinds of ideas, even though we've decided to be pasking halacha elsewhere. And what you do when you learn Torah Lishma is that you understand the dynamics of how God thinks that the world of thought and of living has to coordinate itself and how we live together and think together. And maybe that ability of learning together and having Torah a way of having different people sitting around the same table and discussing very serious issues, even if they don't reach a solution and are not doing anything practical, gives us a lot of protection because it might give Am Yisrael the strength to remain one, even though we have very strong machlokot amongst us. And maybe that's why when you learn Torah Lishma, there's more strength of protection and salvation than doing the mitzvot. So that's just a thought to finish with you, and I hope you enjoyed this sugya and the dvarim of the Ran and the dvarim of the Achronim. And as I said before, anyone who's interested in the sugya of Birkot Torah, it's very, very rich, and you have an opening through learning of your Daf Yomi. So Bezrat Hashem, we all be continuing to learn Torah Lishma and enjoy the Torah and also say Birkot HaNe'enim and the Torah that God gave us. And we won't be gozel God, Chalila. Take care.